Today, we got Pierre Poilievre sat down with Jordan Peterson in what was basically the most watched interview for a Canadian politician in recent memory. We'll let you know what he said, and we'll give you our thoughts on everything. Then, during a nationally televised speech, China's President Xi Jinping said that no one can stop us from our reunification with Taiwan. Kind of scary. Next, we have U.S. Surgeon General, who said that alcohol labels should include the risk of cancer. Apparently, Gen Z is already drinking less than previous generations. We'll talk about alcohol consumption, and we'll give you some stats. And lastly, in a weird but scary story, there was a dad in Oregon that apparently drugged some kids during a sleepover, which is kind of scary if you're a parent. And after all the stories, remember to stay tuned for Off Topic, where we talk about all the trendy things. And if you haven't done so already, go like and subscribe, and go follow us on Instagram at TheBiringPodcast. So let's start with Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
He had to sit down with Jordan Peterson, and I think we divided this whole thing up into like 4 or 5 different clips. So let's just start with the first one, where he's talking about Canada versus US GDP.
Okay.
And then, as you correctly point out, their real estate is significantly cheaper than ours. So their dollars go a lot further, even when you match up the exchange rates. So you take the total business investment of the United States divided by the total number of workers in America, it's 28 grand. In Canada, it's 15 grand. So the Canadian worker gets about 55 cents for every dollar of his American, and they're both measured in USD. So how is the Canadian worker?
That's investment in future productivity?
That's investment in machines, in technology, in warehouses, factories.
I see.
Any capital investment that businesses make divided by the number of workers, that's the measurement. So now that means they're getting better technology, better new machines, better tools than our workers, and they will be able to crank out even greater wages for their people than we will, unless we catch up with that. Our productivity is another major problem. Right now, and that's productivity sounds complicated. It's actually extremely simple. You just take the GDP and you divide it by the hours worked in the country. So American GDP is $80. So for every hour an American worker works, on average, he or she produces $80 of GDP. Mm-hmm. In Canada, it's 50.
So what do you think about what he's saying there?
So yeah, overall, the productivity is a lot lower here.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, and then the GDP obviously, but isn't that skewed by the population?
It is, because the population, I think the GDP has been pretty stagnant in Canada for the last couple of years. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that even makes it look remotely presentable is the fact that immigration carried that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of skewed by those numbers. But yeah, like I look at that and I see, basically, if you have a country where business, like corporate tax are going to be high, right? Personal tax are going to be high. Who's going to invest anything, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about the houses are more expensive. Real estate's more expensive in Canada, right? We make less money in Canada. So you just take that. At the end of the day, it's not even about going on vacations and celebrating holidays and stuff. Who's going to have enough money to invest or save in anything? Right?
Yeah.
And then when that happens, you get a government who's going to overspend, which basically leads to inflation, which is then going to hurt. If you think about it, if somebody's not financially literate, they're from the older generation, what they're going to do is, or they've been taught this way, that all they're going to do is save money, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a high rate of inflation, you have somebody who's just saving money, you're actually hurting the person who's a saver, right? And that's what inflation does, right? So if somebody's actually fiscally responsible, you're going to get burnt by inflation, right?
Yeah, he goes on in the interview to discuss that too. How it kind of tells you not to save or teaches you in a way to not save.
Yeah.
Because the best way to battle inflation is to spend.
Yeah.
When everyone around you is spending, right? To combat it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be a part of the game, right? Like, I don't think you can sit on the sidelines. Like, if everyone's buying houses, right, and you decide not to buy one, how's it going to keep getting expensive? The money you have sitting in your savings account is going to do nothing, right?
Yeah.
That's not wise advice to leave money in a savings account.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm not saying that.
For sure.
But from what he's talking about,
But you're
right,
talking about older generation. They're not out here buying houses anyways.
they're not. But all of these, like on the flip side of it, this doesn't have much to what he's talking about. If you're gonna talk about houses, if you have something like the new capital gains tax, right,
Yeah.
that they introduced, right, 66% above. I think what was it, above 500,000, 200. I can't remember what the exact number was, but like if you're gonna have 66%,
Yeah.
right, capital gains tax. Now, if you want to talk about older generations who's gonna retire, right, what do you think that's gonna do? They're not rich.
250,000.
250, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then,
Which isn't much at all.
yeah, like those aren't rich people,
Yeah.
right? Like you work your whole life. Maybe you've
Instead,
built a
you're gonna
couple,
pass it on.
right? Or if you've built a couple of rental properties, usually you're thinking of downsizing, and then all of a sudden you're going to get charged a massive amount of capital gain,
Yeah.
right? To give a country, you're going to give that back to the government,
Yeah.
who's been taxing you your whole life tremendously, anyways. We're one of the biggest, most taxed countries. Like when you compare that to the U.S., obviously, what are you
Yeah.
going to get, right? Like I think corporations obviously understand it, so like eventually they'll just move to the States. You
Yeah.
move down south. If you build a company who's big enough, right, you're gonna move down south,
Yeah.
right? Like who's gonna keep paying these higher? Even in the States, you saw Elon Musk. He left California for
Yeah.
Texas, right? You saw some people move
Lower
to
tax
Florida,
states,
right? You move to lower tax states. I mean, for Canada, it's a harder jump, but anyone who becomes ultra successful, a lot of the times they just choose that route,
Yeah.
right?
For sure.
So with these high taxes, like you're gonna get this in Canadian productivity, right? Because
Yeah.
you're gonna get a low amount of GDP. You're not incentivizing any corporations to spend. You're not incentivizing people to invest, right? And then those corporations don't have, just like people, they don't have leftover money. What
Yeah.
are they gonna do?
Yeah. So, like, with the GDP, the whole debate that's ongoing right now, that Poilievre strongly against is becoming a 51st state,
Right.
right? And then Peterson, I think in the interview, he says too that we have so many untapped resources and land that we could negotiate a deal with other countries that are willing to buy already on a discount, like China, like oil and stuff.
Yeah. Right.
But you have this ongoing trade deal with
Yeah.
the U.S.
Yeah.
So that they both contradict each other, right?
What, the trade deal?
Like your trade deal with them
Yeah.
and also becoming a 51st state, right? That's another option you would have is to,
Becoming the 51st state. I feel like what people don't talk about when it comes to 51st state is economically, it's not apples to apples, right?
Yeah.
Like he's talking about Canadian real estate is a lot more expensive,
yeah,
right? And usually the US, the Federal Reserve does a better job at handling inflation. But right now, inflation is below 2% in Canada. In the United States, it's above 2%.
Yeah.
I mean, last time I checked, interest rate divergence are around 100 basis points. I don't know exactly what it's at right now.
it might be higher than that.
They might even be higher, right? Because of the last rate cut. But I feel like when you look at that, right? If you were to basically become a part of the Federal Reserve, that means the government of Canada would lose the ability to control monetary policy, right? Which means that they can't print more money, right?
Yeah.
Which means when you run into a crisis, what's going to happen? Your country can't add more money to increase inflation and encourage spending,
Yeah.
right? So what happens is like something that happened in Greece during the '08 financial crisis, right? Like you had them just adopt the euro. I think they adopted it in 2006,
Yeah.
right? And after that,
Their whole economy afterwards.
it decimated their
Yeah.
they could, well, it wasn't just, it was because of austerity and other things too, but it was also like bad government policy and government spending. But like if your country doesn't have that option, right, you're gonna run into some problems. And then even if it was the same, like if Canada did adopt the US dollar, right, mortgages work a little differently here, right? So the Canadians would get screwed.
Yeah, that's the thing too. You have so many different policies
Yeah.
that you have to they have to coexist, or you have to find a way.
Well, the money is a big one, right? Like imagine where would home values go?
And all
Right,
these
like-
untapped resources would get tapped into.
They'd
by
get
the
tapped
US.
into, and if you've ever seen history, right? Like there's going to be people who reject that, right? You still have some people in Quebec who want to be a separate country,
Yeah.
right? So how do you think
That's the thing.
if Canada was to become
Within
the
our country.
51st state, you think certain people, like there's already disagreements in the States, you think certain people are going to be welcoming and be like, yeah, we're all the same? No, they're going to be like, you're over there, we're over here, we never liked this. And that's not happen anyways, right? And then I think the reverse argument for it though is, especially if I'm talking about currency here, is if there's a large amount of people that believe that the world's headed into basically three major currencies.
Yeah.
One is going to be in Asia, whether it's the yen, which is falling apart right now, or BRICS or something along that sort. Two is a Eurozone, right? And three would be the dollar,
Yeah.
right? And if that's the case, then yeah, to prevent the Canadian dollar from basically getting marginalized, it makes sense to adopt the US dollar, right?
Yeah.
Which is somebody who's pro that movement is going to say. That's kind of the argument when it comes to currency. But I still feel like, I don't know, to me, I look at that and I see if a house costs, I don't know, 1.4 million, 1.5 million in the GTA, like a townhouse, certain townhouses, right? Or even 1.2 in BC or Vancouver, wherever, right?
Yeah.
Those houses, when you compare similar real estate to houses in California and New York, right? And now if it's all one big country, you think values aren't going to be all over the place. You think Canadians aren't going to be over leveraged. Canada's one of the biggest, I think it's the most leveraged country when it comes to household debt in the G7.
Yeah.
Right. And by far. Right. Even he's talking about it. Americans typically right now complain about $500,000-$600,000 home values.
But it's also because so much of Canada is unlivable, right? There's only certain cities that you can really live in.
That would be that's one argument you can make. But the population is also now it's 40 million, right? There's also places like the Greenbelt, right? They haven't built any houses in Ontario in the Greenbelt, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just like unlivable land. There's also bureaucracy, right? To build houses. I think I've heard him talk about it. I've read some articles about it, about how 60% of house costs he thinks he can make go away, right? Which does that add to inflation? Like, we'll see. But when it comes to all of that, I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison when it comes to economies. Canada and the US.
He's saying 60% of the cost of buying a home he can get rid of? In what sense?
No, he's saying 60% of the cost of building a home.
Building it.
Right?
So the material?
Zoning.
He was talking about, not in this interview, but I've heard him talk about this before, how apparently Olivia Chow, the mayor of Toronto, increased the amount that it takes to build houses in Ontario, right? And didn't make any kind of news headlines or anything, right? So what's that going to do? That's going to increase the cost of whoever's buying these houses, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like the last 3-4 years, especially, if you were going to buy a new construction home in Canada, you were going to buy it and then you'd probably wait 2 years until it got built.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in the States, I don't think they wait that long. I think it's like it used to be 6 months, 8 months, a year.
We're talking about COVID time.
Yeah, but even now, these houses aren't getting made fast. They're not, because right now it's for different reasons, because house prices are a little stagnant. So builders don't want to build as many houses. So, I mean, there's bad incentive structures, right?
For sure.
So I think the next clip we have of him is him talking about immigration.
As long as they leave the war behind. And frankly, that was, most people come here to get away from those things. So by getting back to a common sense of values and identity and reminding people that when they get here, they are Canadian first, Canada first. Leave the hyphens. We don't need to be a hyphenated society. We need to be, we're going to be grateful again, and we're going to inculcate the values of gratitude for our incredible history. Build up the country, celebrate what we have in common rather than obsessing about what divides us, focusing on the shared values that make us all Canadian. And I think in so doing, we can, and by the way, put aside race, this obsession with race. that wokeism has had a population growth of 1.2 million in 2023. That's on a base of 40 million people. So it's an astonishing number of people to bring in 1 year. Everyone now admits that this was a calamity for housing, the job market, and our healthcare. Well, this is after he called everyone who questioned his immigration policy a racist.
Right.
And then he adopted the policies that he was calling racist only a year and a half earlier.
This guy never misses a chance to take a dig.
At Trudeau? Yeah.
I mean, sure, a Canada first approach makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. But there's a delicate line there you got to toe when he's just saying just get rid of hyphens in general, like Indo-Canadian, for example. There's a lot of proud people here that are proud of their heritage and culture that they don't want to just get rid of. Like the way he was phrasing it could be interpreted a different way.
To me, I feel like it's more so like if you're going to say Indo-Canadian, you're saying you're Indian Canadian.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to say you're Spanish Canadian, you're saying you're Spanish Canadian.
Yeah.
If you're going to say name the countries, right? Like if you're going to put a country ahead of it and then say Canadian, I don't think that you're putting Canada first. I don't think that you're putting...
When someone asks, like, what's your background, what's your culture, will say, I'm Indo-Canadian.
Well, he just mentioned it.
It, but you don't ever
I read it in articles.
No, but you'll
see
read
it on the news.
Yeah, but like it's not that prevalent here.
I've never said Indo-Canadian.
And then they'll say, what's your background, where your parents from? Then I get it. But nobody's going to come out here saying I'm whatever Canadian.
Because it's not that prevalent here because people don't even, do people even say I'm Canadian here? They don't. I don't think they do. If you ask somebody what you are, they'll be like, I'm Indian or I'm Chinese
but if you go
or I'm Mexican.
Country, you'll say you're Canadian.
If you go to another country, right? I think he's kind of going off of the American ideology, which is like a lot of like, they'll say I'm Chinese American, Mexican American, I'm African American, right? Like we've heard the whole, everything that's been.
Maybe Native American. They'll say it.
Right.
But I feel like that also comes from like when someone asks you like, oh, where are you from? And then you're like, I'm Canadian. And then have you ever had it where people are like, oh, but where are you really
Yeah.
So then you kind
always say Canadian,
have to specify.
Then you have to. You're forced to.
So,
but I'd always say Canadian too.
Yeah.
I think I would differentiate where I think it's different, where I think when people hear that, if they get slightly offended, I don't think he's saying that don't say that you're a Sikh or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian or a Catholic. You can say all of those things,
countries,
right? Nobody goes, I'm a Canadian Catholic, right? Like, or I'm a Canadian Sikh, right? Like, you don't, there's nothing wrong with saying what religion you are, right?
Yeah.
The whole issue is saying that I'm this country first and then Canada second, right? Like, that's the whole issue, right? If you're bringing a country into the fold, then, like, again, if that is your case, right?
Then why are you here?
Just my thought process, though, right? Like, if I wanted to be in Australia and I wanted to move there, I'm not going to be like, I'm Canadian Australian, right? If I've been living there for 20 years and then I'm just Australian, right?
That's what he's saying. Be a productive member of this country and be proud of the fact that you're part of this country. And contribute.
So he's not particularly saying that people are just walking around saying that. He's talking about how people act. He's talking about their actions, how they're representing themselves, how they're acting. Like, it's not just the title. He doesn't care about the title.
Yeah, a lot of what he says is like kind of draws off what Trump ran on too, right? Like America first.
It's a conservative mindset, right? But like,
get rid of the wokeism.
I don't know how you guys feel about saying Canada first. Like, I actually have no problem with it. Right? Because if I look at myself,
I don't think any of us do.
None of us do, but there are people
do.
They do. They do. People do, right? Because for me, like, I was born here, right? So Canada's given me everything, right? So I'm Canadian first.
What did your parents say?
My parents, like, there's a group of immigrants from there. My dad went to high school here, right? So there's a group of people from that generation who, like, feel like they left, like, whether it was India or wherever they came from, they went to countries like Australia, like UK, like US, like Canada, right? And for our dad specifically, right? He doesn't consider India home.
Yeah.
He never really goes back. He never really talks about it, right?
Been here longer.
And if you ask him, he puts Canada first.
Yeah.
If you asked him if he's Canadian or Indian, he'll easily say Canadian,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't think he'll ever be like, well,
But if you said, are you Canadian or are you Punjabi?
he'll still say Canadian if you ask him like that. If you're going to ask him to draw a line in the sand religiously,
Yeah.
right? Which Canada's not a religion,
Yeah.
right?
It's a country.
So, like, I think it depends on how you frame it, right? If you're trying to attack somebody, then and trying to corner them and be like, say you're not Canadian, right?
Yeah.
Then obviously maybe you might get somebody to a point, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think there is a certain group of people that have like a big pride of where they came from, which is fine.
Fine, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you're going to go to a country for a better life and better opportunities,
And you like all those things.
But you want to keep saying where you came from is better. Like, that's what I want to be labeled as, not this.
Yeah.
Right? To people that are born here, right, who Canada's done a lot for them, right? Despite all the shit we talk about the government and stuff and things that have been happening in the last 10, 15 years.
Nice place to live.
For us, Canada's done a lot, right? Without everything that Canada's done for us, we wouldn't be where we are, right? So to me, I look at that and I can see why somebody who, like us, is born here, right?
Yeah.
You can't just, whenever somebody wants to shit on Canada, I'm not going to just sit there and just be like, yeah, it's okay. You know, let's just call your country better, right?
Right.
Who would?
No.
Right? Those same people, they don't hesitate, right? So I think he's saying from that approach, but I think the message can get skewed a little bit because people get sensitive. And I think people do get in this weird space where they talk about religion. I think they get in the space where they talk about, I don't know,
Race,
cultural.
like you were saying, race has nothing to do with
No.
any of this, right? We're talking about betterment of the country as a whole.
And honestly, don't you guys feel like good people are good people, right? And bad people are bad people. You're going to get them from every culture, every religion, and coming from every country,
Yeah.
right? But like, if your values align and if you're Canadian, what's wrong with saying like, I'm Canadian?
Yeah.
Right?
Should be proud of the fact, right?
Right. Okay. I think the next clip we have of him is basically, I know he does a lot of talk about shitting on Trudeau and stuff, but I think this is of him talking about his action plan and what he would do right when he gets in, if he became prime.
First of all, I'm going to axe the carbon tax. It's been kind of an epic commitment that I've made. It's iconic. And so I have to follow through on it immediately. And that will signal to the country that I'm serious. Second, we want to get rid of the GST on new homes and make pass changes that aggressively incentivize municipalities to get the building started. That has to happen immediately for people to notice any difference in the cost of housing by the time I get through my fourth year. We will have rapid introduction of the biggest crackdown on crime in Canadian history. A massive crackdown.
And what'll that look like? A crackdown on crime?
Basically, habitual offenders will not get out of jail anymore.
Right.
1%
of the criminals commit 65% of the crimes.
Crime is a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, we all see those
Recently,
videos, right?
for sure.
Have you guys, you remember all these little break-ins that first they started with car thefts?
Now I keep seeing these jewelry stores.
Right?
Yeah.
I just saw one today in Burlington.
In malls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All over the place. Different cities you wouldn't expect. There's not
Right.
much crime there. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I think it started with the
Broad daylight too.
Yeah. It started with the car thefts.
Yeah.
And then that was a big problem. Everyone kept talking about it. Then it moved on to these jewelry stores. And even during that time, I don't know who it was, if it was some sort of police chief or some sergeant who was
Leave your keys by the
your
door.
keys at the door.
Right.
Right? Like, so
I think
it's
it was a
easier so they
police
don't,
chief.
right?
Well, they're one of these malls that just have security. It's not like
No, I was talking about the car thefts, but you're talking about the jewelry stores.
Yeah. That's why it's easy. It's an easy target for them. I saw the Kitchener Mall. I think they hit it twice in the same week.
Well,
Same store.
I think you're talking. Okay, yeah. I feel like there's this lack of fear of the legal system,
Yeah.
right? Where you feel as if there's not going to be any ramifications for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're saying, you see a couple of mall cops and you're like, so what? You just grab.
When you see the videos, you see the mall cops do nothing.
Yeah.
Well, what are they going to do?
No, what are they going to do?
I
Like,
think they're told to not do anything.
What does a mall cop get paid? Like $20 an hour, $21 an hour? You think he's going to throw his life on the line and be like, hey, no, put that necklace back? He's gonna
I do the same thing.
right? Like you're not. It's supposed to be one. I feel like it's bad policy to not have more harsh laws when it comes to crimes like that.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like if you wanted to set a statement, I don't know how he plans on doing it. He said no repeat offenders would get out of jail.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it's hard to get those things.
Like I've never felt at any point in my life that Canada was soft on crime, but maybe that's because there was never enough crime to feel that way. Like we already looked at crime stats in previous podcasts; they're up year over year.
Yeah.
So it's starting to feel a lot more unsafe.
It's starting to feel unsafe because Canada was the kind of place where when we grew up, where people left their doors unlocked.
Yeah.
Right? Like nobody was like really worried about,
generally not good advice, but it was safe enough communities that we grew up in. Right?
Now,
that's how it felt.
That's not the case.
Hell no. You got to put 2 padlocks on that thing.
I feel like in every neighborhood, from rich neighborhoods to
that's the thing. It
middle
doesn't
class
matter.
to broke neighborhoods, it's the same thing across the board, right? Like, and there's, I don't know, it's just this, they'll do it while people are home.
Yeah.
Right. And these jewelry stores, you're talking about strip malls. What about the ones where they just ram the car right through the store and then just
it's ruthless, right?
Yeah.
With no regard for anyone.
Or even these car videos. I remember when they started, I was like, are these real? Like who's actually doing like it's the GTA? Like people just like Grand Theft Auto. Right. Like you're just like jumping in and pulling somebody out of the car, throwing them to the side and just taking
There was that one guy who was walking on to the 401. Making people get out of their car.
Oh yeah, he was just, wasn't he shooting at them?
The guy with the gun, right?
Yeah, with the gun, he's walking up to cars.
Look, lunatic.
Yeah,
right. Like I don't even know what kind of that kind of person shouldn't be having a gun.
I mean, I think it's all encompassing, even the like economic climate, everything. It's raising up crime, obviously, right?
I think typically, when it comes to crime, it does happen more when there is a recession.
Yeah.
Right. People have less money. You're going to see a lot of this. Usually when an economy is thriving, a lot of that does go away because people are occupied with a lot of things. People have more jobs. Unemployment's lower. Right.
Yeah.
Usually there's inflationary pressures that are going on. So people are making money in other ways. But yeah, the other thing that in his action plan he's talking about is axe the carbon tax.
Yeah.
Right. Which, I mean, we talk about that.
He even said he's like, that's one that he has to do immediately. But even he realized he's got to do it immediately because he even said so Canadians will see the impact by the time my 4-year term's up. That's how long it's going to take, right? So
that's how long these
got to get rolling quick.
Yeah. They take a very long time. Right.
Yeah.
And then I think his other thing was for housing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bureaucracy, cutting the bureaucracy.
Yeah. So
seems like that's his main running point.
Do you think he's over promising?
And he's going to underdeliver?
Yeah.
That's what a lot of politicians do, but he's running even crime, he's starting to talk about it a lot more. I recently noticed. So it's a crime, this axing the tax, bureaucracy, immigration. Those seem to be the main
it seems like
points.
he's talking about really important.
Well, he's a politician, right? So you're gonna have a team that comes in every morning, tells you what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, this happened, that happened. This is what the news media is talking about. This is what social media is talking about. This is what the podcasts are talking about. And then they're gonna run with it, and then he's gonna see what. So that's just part of politics, right?
Yeah.
But these things are a hot button issue. I think it's right now. It is crime. It is cost of living, and it is
housing,
and it's immigration, right? Those are kind of things that people are frustrated with, not with like who's coming into the country. Like that obviously it's concerning, right? But it's also the quality of people, the amount of people. You keep overloading, right? The system from the schools, hospitals, like across the board.
Yeah.
Right. It's gonna cause problems.
Yeah.
And you have no, like, there's nothing that's stopping them from doing any of that. So I mean, like, I feel like at this point, I think I said it last podcast, it's kind of weird how globally people were kind of
Everyone's
leaning,
shifting.
right?
Yeah.
And it's weird. And you're seeing it happen pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's just like it just shows that this little system that even with if you're going to be on the left or the right, usually a correction is an overcorrection.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you go one way, you're just going to go too much that way.
For sure.
And then you have to hone that in. Right now, they've spent too much money. Right now, the economy's gone to shit, right, which is raising up crime, which you have to come and fix. Right?
For sure.
How much of it he's going to do, like Sophia said, who knows?
I'm just thinking like, okay, not that I want criminals to be running around freely, but jails are overpopulated. You've seen all that. Have you guys heard like Toronto South Detention Hall? Like there's so many issues with cleanliness and they're just letting people go because there's not enough room. These are all tax dollars that are paying for all that. So what, are we just going to get more taxes on the other side or?
No, I mean, how about not give everyone $250 for a holiday tax break and this GST
that they never really need?
Sure.
How about like that collectively was like $8 billion, right? I don't think it would cost that much to fix some prisons, not all, right?
Well, if they're overcrowded, you'd have to build more prisons.
I mean, how many billions does it take to build a prison? You know, I'm not saying that it would fix these systems, right? But I'm saying like a Canadian deficit was at 61 billion, 61, 62. And they set a ceiling for it at 40.
Right.
A little over.
A lot of bit over, right? So if you're going to spend that money, you have had to, like, you can kind of see the way that I look at it. Like, you can kind of see what Trudeau was doing with the carbon tax. I don't know exactly if that's what, if you're spending that much money, you got to make it back.
Yeah.
And he knew before the fall economic budget came out, right? Like he knew.
Got to balance those books.
Yeah. He was just like, we've been spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. Like we need to make money.
Yeah.
Let me put this carbon tax into it. Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's, a lot. We'll see what he promised, what he'll deliver, but the message, I don't think there's many Canadians that disagree with the message, right?
Overall, yeah.
Right now, right? But yeah, talking about Trudeau, that's exactly who he's going to talk about next. Sophia, you want to play this?
Have a prime minister who is dedicated to a extremely radical ideology. It is just a rehashed socialism that has been discredited again and again and again throughout the ages. And his basically authoritarian socialism has guided him throughout his entire prime ministership. He believes in a state that controls every aspect of your life, your money, your speech, your thought. He controls the economic, all of the industries of the country. And every time that has been tried, it is a complete disaster. So there's no mystery involved. It is the same old disastrous outcome that results from the same old disastrous policy.
He's not even trying to be funny.
No, I mean, it's funny because what he's saying, you wouldn't think that somebody tries so hard to do those things.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Did you see his video that he put on YouTube, this guy? Blackonomics?
Yeah. I saw it. What'd you think about that?
I thought it was informative.
Really?
You think it was just too much? He overdid it?
It's basically a highlight reel of like Trudeau's biggest moments.
Right.
Where like,
biggest moments.
Yeah, and like the most
Worst
clickbaity.
I saw a different side of Poilievre with that video.
Like,
this guy's so serious most of the time, but I was like, oh, he's a bit of, like he has some humor.
I don't know.
I feel like when you see them in the house and they're arguing back and forth, they got some jokes.
Yeah.
They some jokes. Right. So, but like I look at that and I've kind of felt like it's just all stuff that people know. Right. And the person narrating it kind of sounds like, I don't know, like you're like from one of those Natural Geographic.
Yeah.
Like, right. So, but I mean, all of those things are funny and it's done in a way which obviously puts Trudeau in a bad light. Mm-hmm. I just think everyone knows all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of felt like it wasn't something that he needed to do.
Okay.
Right. But like,
it was funny.
I started watching it. I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've seen every single one of those clips, basically, right?
Yeah.
I think 90% of Canadians know what's been going on in the country
Yeah.
unless you've just been living under a rock,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, talking about Trudeau, right? Like what he's saying about his socialist viewpoint, right? He's basically saying that the left has gotten out of control over 9 years. I think this is what I've finished talking about. Like if you give somebody free reign for such a long time, it's going to happen, right? Like they're going to just do whatever they want, right? But Trudeau, I think his approval rating has been tanking.
Oh yeah,
Right.
all of them. I even saw the other day, most of the MPs, the Liberal MPs, they're projected to lose their ridings too. Trudeau included.
Well,
Chrystia Freeland.
some of them are saying that they're not going to run for re-election.
Yeah,
Right. So
it's kind of like the whole party's just tanking with him. He's just taking all.
people are so power hungry too. Did you see Mark Carney? Right.
Yeah, a little bit.
So he's basically this guy's economic advisor, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Which apparently, right, it's not like fact checked here, but it's just something that people talk about. He was the one who was basically advising Trudeau the whole time.
Yeah.
And he was lined up to take Chrystia Freeland's job. I think I've said this before, right? And then she resigned right before Trudeau was about to be like, I'm going to give this guy your job.
Yeah.
And then after she did that and this guy saw the fallout, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna pass.
Yeah.
Right. And then apparently now that Trudeau said that over the holiday break, he said he's not resigning just yet. And then little things have been coming out. Now you have all these Liberal MPs who are coming out and saying, we're demanding he resigns. Like,
they're gonna have a emergency meeting again.
yeah, as if anyone
Like the 30th one. I guess.
Yeah, like at this point, demanding he's gonna resign, does those words carry any weight whatsoever?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, to me, and then
this article, he's saying he's made and fielded dozens of calls to Liberal MPs and political organizers to find a replacement for Trudeau.
That's what I was gonna say. I think this guy's making a run for party leader.
Yeah.
So look
Carney,
at that,
yeah.
right? Look at that. I see that, and it's kind of a Weasley move to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like you
couldn't help him out when he needed you, and then
and then the
trying to
guy
take his job.
like,
And they've known each other for a long time.
and even if you're not a Trudeau fan,
Right.
if the guy's about to resign and you were next in line to be the guy's finance minister, right? And instead you're like, I don't want the job. You see him fall, and you're like, I'm gonna be the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
Right. And like, I don't think Canadians are dumb. You're going to see that, and you're going to see people not trust him either.
Sure.
Right. Like, I don't think that's good for
what I'm
Liberal
saying.
government.
Just with Trudeau, I feel like the whole party is losing trust.
Well, the
amongst
ship
Canadians.
is sinking.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, get off
I
it.
think
You
they're
don't wanna
trying
be
to
the leader of
save,
that.
like, you'll hear like, oh, this many MPs from Alberta or this many Liberal MPs from X, Y, and Z. Like, they're saying, no, Trudeau must resign.
Yeah.
If you said that 5 months ago,
Might have meant
we'd be like, oh, okay, Liberals aren't as crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they could have saved and fooled some Canadians into voting for them, right? You're saying that now?
Yeah.
The whole country's been calling for elections,
Yeah.
right? Like now you're saying it?
Even this podcast, he called it the next Prime Minister of Canada. That's what the podcast was called. The title of it.
I mean, so if you Google Trudeau's approval ratings, I believe they're somewhere around 28%. Last time I checked.
28% as of December 24th.
That's
December 24th.
That's according to...
This is according to Angus Reid.
Oh, okay. I think they do like online polls or something. Yeah, you look at that, 28%.
Yeah.
Right? So 72% of the country thinks you shouldn't be prime minister.
Yeah. And
Right,
it's
like-
not you.
And that's just, I feel like that list. I feel like I looked at, if you look at the same poll there that you had before, the Angus Reid one.
Yeah.
If you scroll down, I think there was like by age and by like male or female. Like if you look at males as of December 2024, they're at what?
22%.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right? It's like 22% of males, right? And then even if you look at 55 plus, 35 to 54, females are at 33%.
Females are the highest.
Right? But the crazy...
Liberal, yeah. You would guess.
But look at where it fell from, right? Like you're looking at...
Wild, dude.
Yeah, you're looking at when he got elected last. Look at the approval ratings when he last got elected. I remember the last election.
70%?
No, they fell. They climbed back up, right? But they were at rock bottom when he got elected.
Yeah.
It was just the same thing. You don't remember?
Yeah.
Everyone was kind of feeling the same. And then somehow he got elected. And that one was a surprise one.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone was like, how did that happen? But it happened.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think it's going to happen this time around.
No, I don't think. I think you have, well, this interview that Poilievre had, like how many numbers did it do on X or on...
on X, last I checked, it was like 33 million.
Yeah.
And on YouTube even, it's 1.5 million, this podcast.
Damn. So if you look at that, like I don't
You
think...
got that. You got him already calling him the Prime Minister of Canada. Even Trump, when a lot of people were pretty confident he had it in the bag, he was going to win. A lot of people felt that way. Nobody was saying the next president or just calling it that. Like,
well, because like the polls in the United States, what was happening there, over here you see these polls and it says approval ratings are tanking. Over there, they would say that Kamala's ahead in the polls, 50-50, right? Because I believe, you don't know who the hell answers polls anyways. I've never answered a single poll in my life. Have you guys?
No.
So to me, like I think what they do there is usually they'll hide the results. If they're bad, then they won't put them out until later, right? And if they're good, or if they favor their candidate, whoever, so polls are always skewed, right?
Yeah.
But that's why people didn't have such a big belief. But over here, it's wild, man. The country, like you don't see a single person who was happy with the economic state of Canada,
for sure,
right? Which is usually a pretty massive indicator that a PC government's gonna win easy.
Yeah.
Right? Because
nobody's happy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what class you are, where you're at in life. Youth. They have a majority of the youth vote too. They're winning all across the board.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. You're saying those numbers. If you have 33 million people watching you on X, right? And I don't know what it's at now, 1.5, 1.6 million on YouTube, right? I don't know a single Canadian politician who's doing those kind of numbers when it comes to reach, right? Like, I don't know a single one, right? And if you're on X and you're on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you're putting a lot of content out there where there's no way. At this point, like what's Trudeau doing? Nothing. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything. Even look at this. All of these guys are on holiday break, right? This is when you see somebody who works hard, who wants it, right? All these guys are on holiday break. Nobody said anything. MPs, Jagmeet Singh, Trudeau, nobody's saying anything.
He's doing interviews.
This guy's doing interviews. He's making these videos. He's trying to give people, I think I saw him talking about like what would happen if Trudeau resigns, a Liberal Party holds, basically the government hostage as they try to figure out like who's going to run next. So like this guy's working.
Yeah. He even talked about it in the interview. He's like the earliest he sees a possible election probably be March. Because after they come back, then they got to table the no confidence and then it gets voted on conveniently right after Singh's pension. That's what he said too.
Yeah, I mean, Jagmeet Singh, I feel like he shot himself in the foot there, right? Like if everyone knows that your pension kicks in after February, right?
They know now because of him.
And somehow we're going to make it to February. Please like and subscribe as it really does help the podcast out tremendously. Now let's get back to the pod. But yeah, I mean, let's move. Yeah. Let's move on from Trudeau and Poilievre to China. So their president Xi Jinping said this in a nationally televised speech.
The people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait are one family. No one can sever our family bonds, and no one can stop the historical trend of national reunification.
No one can stop the trend of historical reunification.
Yeah. So he also went on to say, like in that interview, that they're not ruling out force to take back Taiwan either. So this has kind of been an ongoing thing with China and Taiwan, right? It's this little island between China, South Korea, Philippines. And it's like, why does it matter so much? It's because they make the computer chips that go out.
Semiconductors
for a majority of the world, right? I think they own like half of the market.
I think they make 60% of the semiconductors.
It's that one company, TSMC.
And I think they make 90% of the high-end semiconductors.
Yeah.
Right. So the ones that are actually really expensive to make that go into
Cars and stuff.
that
Or even higher end. Than
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Like basically that go into all the important stuff, right?
Yeah.
They're all made there.
Okay.
Right. And if you remember a few years ago when there was a chip shortage, it was all headlines everywhere. You basically had cars sitting around that were made but didn't have enough chips to run the cars.
Yeah.
And everyone found out, oh, these chips are a real thing.
Yeah.
Even most people in the States started saying we should make chips in the States. Well, a lot of that comes from Taiwan.
Yeah.
Right. So from that perspective, it's definitely important. But I feel like from a historical perspective, they think that they see Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they feel about the same way Russia feels about Ukraine, China feels about Taiwan.
Yeah.
Right. They think it's a part of China.
Yeah.
Right. And it always has been. Right. I don't know all the history there, so I'm not going to speak on that. But
yeah, that's what it boils down to. They've always thought that they should have.
Yeah.
Same sort of situation.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're going to see Putin doing this thing in Ukraine, right, and you're like, maybe this is a possibility here, you're going to start doing it.
Yeah.
Right. But like, I also feel like I don't know if this is exactly going to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the timing of all of it, right? Last week, the Chinese government sanctioned 7 companies in response to aiding them with weapons, giving the Taiwanese weapons. They're American companies, so their assets in China were frozen. So do you think it has a little bit, they're prepping for this impending trade war that's coming their way with Trump coming into office? Is it a political move on that point?
Okay. I think it's more so, I think there's 2 things that can happen here. I think it's with this no one can stop us stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think the U.S. is going to have something else to say about that. Right? They're not going to, if you thought that.
Yeah, but Taiwan alone, like if you look at that chart,
right, like
they're defenseless. What are they actually going to do in response? Right? They're going to need some help if they're going to do anything at all.
Well, did anyone think that, if you look at that, China has one of the biggest militaries in the world, right? Like you can't compare. That's like saying if the U.S. went and invaded Mexico, what would happen?
Yeah.
You'd run through them, right? But it's more so, I feel like if you saw what happened with Ukraine, right? I think maybe the U.S. has realized something there, or they've always known, right? But these little proxy wars that happen, right?
Yeah.
What's happening with Ukraine? Everyone's talking about it. We're sending money to fight somebody else's war. And they keep talking about it. If you look at that, if this was the start, I think you might see something like that. But you're talking billions of dollars a week. Billions of dollars a week.
Yeah.
They'll send everything in the kitchen sink, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the U.S. would actually intervene and go fight this war. Because that's...
Well, it comes down to these chips, right? They're so valuable.
Yeah.
And they have a stronghold on the whole market.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that. The flip side of it that I feel like it's easy to get lost in the military part for sure, because if the whole conversation about the military industrial complex, right, where you're going to say that money is going to be fed to let Taiwan give it to Taiwan like they did to Ukraine. What is that really? That's usually that country turning it around, spending it on Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, or any of these other big military defense companies, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like the U.S. gets it right back, or these military companies, they're going to make money, right? So they want that, right? So if they do want that, what's going to happen? Like, I think it's going to play out like Ukraine. I don't think you're going to see a bunch of, like a war between U.S. and China if this was to ever happen. I think you would just see billions, trillions, just money flowing into Taiwan to whatever they can to make sure that Taiwan's not taken over. Right? But I don't think if it ever came to U.S. versus China, obviously that's a World War
for
II,
sure.
right? Like that's a different kind of world. Like that's like a catastrophic event, right? So I don't see any of that coming. But I feel like the thing that's not talked about here is China's economy is gone to shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's been talks of all these billionaires who have been slowly moving money out of China for years now, right?
Yeah.
And then you know what Xi does when he finds out about that, right? Like the billionaires just go away. Right? So they've been secretly doing it. I mean, anyone that lives in BC will tell you about how much Chinese money moves into their real estate or speculated, right? Even in Canada, they set certain laws to stop foreign investment, right? And they do that for these kind of reasons, right? So you have all that money moving out. Outside of it, we also saw Evergrande, one of the biggest real estate developers in the world, start to make these ghost cities that went nowhere. They went bankrupt. They basically collapsed. So now you have a country whose population is losing faith in the government, even though it's a dictator. The easiest way to unify people when your country's going broke, give them an enemy.
Yeah.
The West, right? And now people are like, oh no, we want Taiwan. Maybe that'll fix the situation, right? And now you have, if you're gonna, easiest way to unify people is gonna be by directing them towards a common enemy, which this might just be something he's just trying to hide the fact of how bad economically China's doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who knows what his motives are there.
Yeah.
Right? But like the way he words it, no one can stop us with our historical trend of reunification.
Yeah.
Right? What?
Yeah.
Like, it's a bold statement, but I feel like you got Trump out here saying all the things that he says, right? And then like Russia out here invading Ukraine and stuff, right? So a lot of it turns into, I don't know, people just say things. They're very bold these days.
Yeah.
Like everyone.
I think the tariff threat has something to do with it too. They're showing them we have this card to play.
I mean, it's a weird thing, right? Like, have you seen in China, so Apple sales recently took a massive hit in China, right? Like, I think Apple's stock is like a little bit in a shaky place right now. People don't know if it's going to be a buy or not, but it's taken a hit basically because their numbers are going down in China, right? Which is happening because I've read about, I've never been to China, but there's basically Apple stores there that aren't really Apple stores. They sell iPhones and all these products. They look exactly like an Apple store, but it's their own Chinese made phones.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. So they basically, they steal that technology and they start making their own stuff. Right. Yeah. Then you have, I don't know if you've heard of BYD. It's their EV company, China's, right? Yeah. They're heavily tariffed. If you want to bring Chinese EVs to Canada or the US, there's 100% tariffs. Why? Yeah. Because those cars are incredibly efficient. And if they were to bring those cars here, they'd be probably around half the price of what a Tesla would be.
Yeah.
Right. And they would work just like a Tesla. Yeah. Right. And I think you have enough population to support what they have going on there. But if China's economy was basically collapsing, then they would be in a different place. Right. But usually a war is going to really hurt a country's economy. Yeah. Right. So if you're already in a sinking economy and you're trying to go to war, right? Unless he thinks the U.S. isn't going to do anything and he really thinks that, right? I mean, now, did Trump say anything about this? I don't think he did.
Nothing, And he says something about everything.
Everything. Yeah. But this, he was like, we're not going to touch that for a little bit. Yeah. Right? Which is kind of weird, right? But yeah. Should we move on to the next story? Yeah. So basically, the U.S. Surgeon General is urging that alcohol labels should include cancer risks. According to an article by the Wall Street Journal, an act of Congress would be required to change the existing warning labels on bottles of beer, wine, and liquor. Today, federal rules require only a warning against drunken driving and drinking while pregnant, as well as a general warning that alcohol may cause health problems. Alcohol is a well-established preventable cause of cancer, responsible for about 100,000 cases of cancer and 20,000 cancer deaths annually in the United States. Dr. Vivek Murthy said in the advisory issued Friday, yet the majority of Americans are unaware of the risk. So
excessive alcohol use is being linked to colon cancer, specifically for people under 50, which wasn't that common.
Under 50 is scary.
Yeah. And so in the US specifically, colon cancer is the leading cause of cancer death in men under 50 and the second for women, right behind breast cancer.
Yeah.
So everything you can think of has been introduced in our society since the 1960s. A lot of like what they're saying is that changes in lifestyle are what's leading to this cause, and it's the like post-World War era. So they're falling, but only for younger, or they're raising the cancer rates, but only for younger adults, right? And they're falling for older adults. So why is that?
Yeah.
Majority of lifestyle changes, right? More sedentary lifestyle, processed food, less exercising, and a drinking culture.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying that they should make it more known how much these cancers are, how much it's increasing the risk of cancer. And the types of cancer, the 7 most prevalent ones were breast cancer, colon cancer, esophagus, liver, mouth, throat, and voice box. So that many types of cancer.
That's pretty crazy. I feel like there's going to be some sort of alcohol lobbyists that are obviously going to be against that. But I think
people love alcohol.
Yeah, people do.
Yeah.
But I think the younger generation, like Gen Z, I don't see them drinking the same way that we used to.
Yeah.
Right. Our generations or previous generations, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why though. You think it's something they just see our generation and they see the mistakes that they've made, or kind of like the...
So there was another article, a BBC article, and they'd had a Gallup poll in it. And they found that the share of adults under the age of 35 who say they ever drank dropped 10 percentage points in the past 2 decades to 62 from 72%. So, and they think it's that they're becoming more aware. They see it as a health risk. And there's less in-person interaction because alcohol is obviously viewed as a social thing. You get together with people and drink with them. A lot of these kids, they play games online or they meet online.
Interesting. So they're saying that it's more...
And marijuana use, increase in marijuana use, which I think is probably true. There's a weed store on not just one, there's like 3 weed stores on every corner around here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot of people that consume weed like as if they were cigarettes back in the day, right? It's like overly consumed as well. I don't think it's just alcohol, but like when it comes to alcohol specifically, I feel like there is like, I drink a lot less than I previously did.
Yeah.
But I remember growing up, there was this massive culture that we had.
Yeah.
Whether it was in university, college, wherever, there was always this culture of drinking.
About it.
Yeah. It's always been, and it's extremely prevalent in the Punjabi community, right? Sure. Like there's alcoholism runs.
It's rampant in every family.
It's kind of wild, right? So but the cancer risk, the weird thing about it is that nobody was drawing these correlations till now.
Right. It's kind of strange, the timing of it. Even like the stock prices of all these beer brands immediately after this was published. Yeah. Alcohol companies, they started dropping as well.
Well, I think a little bit of that is just coincidental, right? Like, I don't think it's 100% just because of the U.S. Surgeon General says something and all the stock prices just start dropping, right? Because if there's a bull run, they'll all go up.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I don't know. I don't think I'm against having cancer risks labeled on a beer or anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. Do you guys even read beer labels?
I've never read a beer label.
Beer, no, but you'll see on like a pack of cigarettes. It's very
prevalent, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be probably that style, like how they have it on cigarettes.
But in the US, they don't have that on cigarettes. It's not like how it is in Canada. You don't see these massive pictures of like lungs and hearts and stuff. It'll just say the brand.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's going to be something along those lines, right?
And it might make you want to drink less if you see pictures of things on the beer bottle.
If he's saying it should say cancer risks, right?
That'll work.
If it has pictures, if there's this little print in the corner that just says
depends on how they
get cancer, right? I mean, people buy these cigarette packs, and the picture on it says that don't touch this.
Yeah,
you're like,
they still buy it. They have it on each individual cigarette.
Right.
It says
really
each puff has cancer or something.
Oh, I've seen those.
Really?
Before.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
A country like Canada too. I don't know if you guys remember earlier this year. I think it was countries are starting to change their recommendations. They changed it from 2 drinks a day. They recommend, or not recommended you do it. It's okay to do.
Yeah.
To 2 a week.
Yeah. So it's
Pretty drastic change to
They
make.
changed a lot of things. Like, you know how there was like a red wine is good
Yeah,
for you?
even that.
They've
they're
changed
like, no, it's
that.
not.
yeah.
I just don't know if it's like now trendy to be sober.
To be sober.
Yeah, and not sober in the sense that you have an addiction.
Yeah.
But to follow like a healthier lifestyle.
That's a great
care
trend.
about.
If it's a trend.
No, it is a good
Yeah.
trend.
But trends go away is what you're trying
Yeah.
to say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it a lot recently with like celebrities.
Do you think that coincides with the fact that everything is so expensive, right? That people don't have the time and the money to sit around drink and not, because if you see not just that they can't afford it,
Yeah.
it becomes a highly hyper competitive life,
Yeah.
right? When everything is about go get that money all the time.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, let's go, I don't know, invest in this business, you know, buy these stocks, Bitcoin, what is that? Crypto, what is that? And everyone's deciding these things on the fly, and that's all they see. That's all you see in your Instagram feeds, TikTok feeds, and that's all you're seeing. And if it isn't that, then it is the whole trendy part of like the health and fitness industry. You'll
Right.
see a bunch of people that make videos on that, and they're
Right.
monetizing that. So like in that lifestyle, you don't have time to drink.
Yeah.
Like if you want to,
And because of like social media and appearance, and people really care about what you look, and
Yeah.
so to do that, you can't be drinking.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not a heavy drinker, right? Like
Right.
at this point in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can go months without realizing I didn't drink.
Yeah.
Right.
But I also don't think about it, and I'm not like, well, I'm gonna make sure I don't drink. It's just
Yeah.
I do or I don't.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't. There's not too much pressure on it.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not at this point in my life. I'm not the kind of person who's going to have this many drinks a week or
Yeah.
this many drinks a month. It's not. I do go months, right? I probably can count a handful of times that I've drunken in a year. Right?
Yeah.
But like I also don't stop myself from like, hey, you can't. Right?
Yeah.
But I understand that majority of people aren't there. But it's also like I'm busy 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people are in my shoes.
Yeah.
Right. Especially from my age group.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a million things and raising a
It's kind of
family.
like what, Indy was saying, like the social aspect of it. Like
Yeah.
people aren't really going to social events because they're just so busy doing
Right.
other things.
Yeah.
So who literally has time to drink? It's all a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like drinking is good for you.
Well, then we had that other
mean,
article
they
about
never
life
publicly-
crisis and when people die.
Yeah. But they didn't make this public for this long. They've never done any study on it.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, I've always kind of heard like alcohol is poison.
I've never heard it being tied to cancer.
No, you hear it here and there, but it's never. Yeah, like it's making headlines because
Can't help anything.
right.
That's for sure. It probably doesn't help anything. But Ireland, of all places, is actually rolling it out. They're mandating that warnings are going to be put out in
I
2026.
think their drinking culture is very high.
Yeah, but they're mandating warnings. Like we have a
Yeah, it's Ireland.
we have a picture of the label they're putting up on these things.
Yeah.
It's like more like a cigarette style label.
Honestly, I'm not against it.
Oh, like that.
Right?
Yeah,
If people
something
are-
like that.
Yeah, if people are, that's common sense, and people should know that and be reminded of this
Yeah.
all the time.
Causes liver
Right.
disease and fatal cancers.
Yeah, I don't see why. I don't see how that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
unless you're trying to. That's something that you're.
If somebody wants to drink, they're gonna have the label. If someone wants to smoke, the label's not gonna stop them.
Yeah. Just more awareness. I don't know. If Ireland's doing it first, that's good on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavy drinking culture there.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially in the Punjab.
It's wild to me that like even on cigarette labels, it's always like a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like being, I get it.
That's
like,
actually a problem. that
yeah.
exists, that
But it's like
people wanna-
to me, it's just like I can't even
yeah.
think about it.
But with cigarettes, I think it's a large part. Like I could be wrong here with the older generation, right? Like
Yeah.
cigarettes are
Now
kind
it's
of
the
Just because they're unaware or
no, it's just people just don't do it anymore.
I feel like it's kind of like people think it's gross,
yeah.
right? Like it's not really that prevalent.
That's
back-
why they have these vapes. They taste like candies. These kids just.
I mean, back when I was growing up, you used to be able to barbershops. You just smell cigarettes everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was. When did Canada change its law?
it was
to-
95.
right? So I remember.
We were watching Dexter, I think, and remember because it's shot.
People are just
Yeah.
smoking.
They're
Everywhere.
just smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like Mad Men, remember?
Yeah. But like, yeah,
That's crazy. We grew up like that too. People were just smoking everywhere.
Yeah.
and it's completely different now. You don't really see too many people even hanging out at the entrance of these places just smoking.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a younger crowd that do it when they drink or whatever, they used to justify. But
Hopefully this will do something like that. The awareness.
Sounds good to me.
Cutting down on drinking is not bad.
I think that at the same way, like adding the warnings on cigarette packages over time, it did make an impact on people smoking less, like just like we're talking about. So hopefully adding these warnings on alcohol labels will have a similar impact.
yeah, I think
Future.
I think to add to that, you just keep talking about how bad it is for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. Instead of like justifying why you get to do it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
No, like 3 glasses of wine are fine, 10 glasses. Like
Even
people have
Canada,
their-
they went from 2 a day is okay to do.
To
two a week.
Yeah.
Well, Doug Ford was like, we need this stuff. And we just got it in convenience stores and you're slapping labels on it. But yeah, let's move on to the last story, which is it's an older story, but it's kind of scary if you're a parent.
Yeah.
So according to OregonLive.com, a 57-year-old man is accused of drugging 3 12-year-old girls with sedative laced smoothies during his daughter's sleepover last summer at his Lake Oswego home, court records show. Michael Maiden turned himself to the Clackamas County Jail late Thursday on multiple felony and misdemeanor allegations and pleaded not guilty during his arraignment Wednesday in County Circuit Court. His bail was set to $50,000. Maiden laced mango smoothies with benzodiazepine and served the drinks to his daughter's friends, according to a probable cause affidavit written by the police detective. Benzodiazepine is a depressant that shows the nervous system. The affidavit doesn't explain a motive. Maiden faces charges including causing another person to ingest a controlled substance and the application of a controlled substance to the body of another person.
So this guy spiked these poor girls' drinks
12-year-olds.
with benzos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the story is that he initially told his daughter that to invite a bunch of your friends over.
Okay.
He was like insistent. Then throughout
planned this
the
So he kind of planned it?
he planned it. Well, that's allegedly. So then throughout the night he took them to get their nails done.
Wow.
He was just like hovering around to the point where it was making some of them uncomfortable.
Disgusting.
And then he insisted they drink these mango smoothies. And one of the girls didn't really like it. And he made her another one, like insisting that she drink it.
Yeah, I read that. She saw some white chunks on the top of it.
Yeah.
She's like, I didn't want to drink it.
Yeah.
So imagine being a 12-year-old in that sense, right? You're there without your parents, right? And you're this creepy guy, right, who's supposed to be your friend's dad, is telling you, no, drink this thing, right? And you see that there's definitely something wrong, even a 12-year-old, right? It's not like you're completely stupid at that point. You're like, hey, this isn't right. And he's like, no, drink it.
Yeah.
It's a very scary place to be for a 12-year-old girl, right?
Right.
Good on her. Even the girl that like saved them all.
Yeah.
She forced herself to stay up.
Yeah.
right?
She beat the drowsiness to text her mom.
Yeah. She like texted her mom.
Said, like,
that
I don't
her
feel
mom came at,
safe.
like 3 in
Yeah.
the morning.
That's wild.
And he even was like, when the parents came to pick up their kids, was like, no, they're fine.
Yeah.
He was like resisting.
Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Pick them up tomorrow.
And then they just like pushed in to get their kids.
Oh my God. If that was me,
Imagine that. Imagine you don't get that text. Imagine like that girl's
So, like,
smart, man. She's
Nothing happened to those girls, thank God.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it could easily, there was like a part I was reading where he would come down and put his finger under their noses to see if
Yeah,
they
I
were
read that.
sleeping.
oh my God.
Yeah.
So obviously he was waiting until they're passed out.
There's evil, perverted people on this
He's
planet
maintained his innocence
till this point, right? So everything's alleged.
Yeah.
But I feel
But they
like,
found it in their
They did, yeah.
yeah.
The hospital found it.
But like, look at that shit, man. Like this loser is gonna convince his 12-year-old daughter, right, to invite her friends over.
Daughter too, though.
Yeah.
She also drank the smoothie.
No, I'm saying like that's how much of a loser he is. He gave it to his own daughter. He was adamant that the girls come to sleep over at his house. This guy had a whole plan
Taking
of
him out,
doing something, right?
Making him feel
'Cause these poor
safe.
girls, right? So like to me, like I don't know how you feel. I think if when it comes to kids,
It's like, who the hell can you really trust, right?
Or how did you grow up? Like I remember being able to sleep over pretty much wherever I wanted.
Same.
They never really said anything. They didn't, and like
It was a different.
my parents didn't know their parents. Why were they so trusting?
well, I mean, depends on what age. When we were younger, family, yes, but we didn't have sleepover at any friend's house. I've never slept over at a friend's house ever.
I did.
have.
You have?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Maybe they just didn't let you. They let me.
No, it wasn't even let. Like it just wasn't me. Like I didn't like sleeping over at
something you
people's
wanted to
houses,
do?
right? Like if it was family, sure, but if it was friends, I wouldn't sleep over at their house,
Yeah.
right? Like I've been out all night and stuff once I became a teenager and
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like you start doing things.
Yeah.
But like when I was young, no. Like it's not like they were very strict,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like I was going to sleep over at a friend's house. So I don't really know how they would feel about that, right? But for me personally,
No, I'm just saying I kind of wish my parents were like more strict with stuff like
Yeah.
because you don't know. Clearly, look.
yeah,
That's the thing. Would you guys let your kids?
no,
Absolutely not.
absolutely,
Nowhere?
no,
I get that.
We've talked about that a lot.
yeah,
Though.
a lot.
Even
That, like,
generally, like,
When you're letting your kid go to somebody's house,
Yeah.
you don't know who's invited to that house.
Yeah.
Someone could drop by. You don't know anything.
uncle, anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's
In
even.
some situations you can't trust some family members.
I think it's even to the point where if somebody's staying over at your house, right, and it's somebody you don't know who this person is, what their intentions are, and some people might get offended by this, but I wouldn't just let anyone stay over at my house because they're family,
Yeah.
right? There's some dirty people out there,
Yeah.
man. Some
You gotta
nasty
vet
people.
everybody you want involved in your life. Like just generally, we're talking about crime increasing and stuff. Like Simmer even mentioned to me, she was at the grocery store one day, and this old lady asked her, she's like, "My back's hurting. You mind helping me get this up into my car?" And then you did, right, Simmer? You helped her.
Yeah, I still helped her.
But even that,
I
she
was
was
a little
apprehensive,
reluctant,
right?
yeah.
Like she was reluctant because that could have been a scenario where somebody does something. You don't know if they got something planned. That's
Right.
how crazy you get in your
I
own
even
head.
heard something planned like that.
Yeah, and they like throw you in the
Yeah,
trunk,
yeah.
right?
Someone else comes from behind while you're helping.
Like, why is this old lady there getting
Not the
groceries?
same.
No, but that's my first thought. I
Yeah.
was like, should I even help her? What if it's just a
Yeah.
setup?
I remember once when I feel like I was at Walmart, and there was this lady who had a kid with her. She came out of the store, had a whole shopping cart. She had her groceries. She's walking,
Yeah.
and there's some dude behind her, right, who's just like, hey, and he keeps like, and she's clearly nervous, and she
Yeah.
keeps walking, and then she just came up to me because I was walking in. She's like, I don't know him. Can you like just tell him to stay
Oh, wow.
away, right? And then I was just like, do you know her? And the guy just turned around and he was just like, nah, man, and he just walked away, right? But to me, I feel like as a guy, we're not really,
You don't feel that
fear isn't there
No.
ever really, right? Where you're like, somebody's gonna take me.
Girls have that fear all the time.
So I feel like I can't even speak to it, right?
Then you got this jackass who's doing this to kids. Right?
Straight loser, man. When it comes
it's
to
like tenfold with children, the fear.
yeah, that's why if you have daughters, man, like I feel like you have to be protective of that before you're like,
Yeah, good on that kid.
Yeah.
well, good on that
recognize-
kid, but like the parents,
Right.
right? Like, I don't know, like what your kid's gonna get. It's hard because like, yeah, your kid's gonna get mad at you,
Yeah.
right? And you're gonna have to deal with that, but they'll thank you when they're 25, 30.
Yeah, they'll be mad at you for what? A couple of days, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I think there are times, most times, you got to be a parent and not a friend, right? And a lot of the time, the parent just wants to only be a friend.
I agree.
Right.
I think it's shifted. I think when I was growing up, my mom really wanted to be my friend.
Yeah.
But I think our generation is just, there's just too much on the news. There's too much out. There's too much, you're saying crime and stuff.
It is, but even
That you get paranoid. I get paranoid.
but look at with our daughter, right? Like constantly, who's your best friend, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I'm still trying to be your friend.
definitely say it, but I am a helicopter mother for sure.
I don't think there's any, I think the times call for it. I think it's a scarier world than it was. And
Well,
Do you think it was always scary? It's just more.
televised now,
Yeah.
and like social
Possibly.
media blows it up a
Yeah.
little bit,
maybe.
right?
Because I remember growing up and just being able to like leave the house after
I don't
school,
remember
coming
being
home at
scared.
night. No, I was never scared. And by ourselves.
Yeah.
Take the bike and go.
Have you guys ever seen those weird videos where like a kid will be playing I think it's called Roblox. I don't even know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, and then they
just put some
give their address to like a random stranger, and the guy shows up at the house. You guys never seen those videos?
No.
That's wild. Like that's an online kids game or something.
I don't know exactly what it is. But,
Yeah.
So, but like I've seen the video,
right?
like where they're
like a
chatting with
Minecraft type
somebody.
of
Yeah, I think so.
I don't
right?
even know what that is.
Yeah, that's how out of touch we are. But like, when you see stuff like that, you're talking about being a helicopter parent, and we talked about TikTok bans and stuff like that. But there's these games, right? Like when these kids are on iPads and stuff like that. Like, what do you?
So hard. How
It
much
is.
do you monitor? How much do you limit?
I feel like as much as you can keep them away from it, for as long as you can keep them away, keep them away.
And just give them like a
Right.
foundation of how to make good decisions, right?
Right. But it's definitely hard.
Online is so scary.
Right.
Yeah, I remember. I don't
That's
know.
a whole new world that our parents didn't deal with, right?
No.
because everything was just happening. We didn't
Well,
have.
you guys were playing games with.
That was later in life.
Yeah, that was like more like after high school, right?
Probably like
Uni?
middle school, leading into high school, when games became like.
Oh, when they
online.
started playing
Before they weren't even online. We had like
Online
Super
during
Nintendo.
our
Yeah, well, there was no.
Yeah,
We
you'd
had
be
Super
sitting,
Nintendo.
Yeah.
Donkey
Be
Kong.
sitting with your
Yeah.
friends in a basement or in a room,
Yeah,
like
there was no internet.
Yeah,
Come on,
just
let's not
play-
say our age, but
Yeah,
We had
I feel
dial-up.
like online games did not happen until high school for me. They didn't even exist.
I think we got the first computer like in our house when I was like
Pretty old.
10,
Yeah.
9,
It's a
10,
big
somewhere
deal.
around
The
there.
dial-up internet.
in grade 9 for the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't say we had internet. I said we had a computer.
We got net zero after.
Right.
Like,
Or whatever they were.
Dial-up?
That's free.
Just the
Yeah.
one line for the phone and the internet.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, online, I feel like there's a lot of scary things for kids because, like, you guys remember the YouTube Kids channels randomly would have these fake channels where they're not actually the content that they're saying.
Yeah,
that
you
they
have
are.
to
off.
watch what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
watching. They would just pop up on weird, inappropriate things. I heard.
is-
I never actually saw it.
I never saw it
but I
either,
heard.
but I heard about it as well. So yeah, man, I feel like being a parent now is really crazy. And as far as it comes to sleepovers, no, I think our kids gonna hate us sometimes. But no.
We can just be the house that does the sleepovers.
I mean, even that, it's a lot of work. But yeah,
It is.
He's like, I just want to manage my own kid.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah, because kids do a lot of weird things, and then now you got to monitor all of them, right? They want to sneak out, they want to do weird things. I don't know.
Yeah, that girl was raised right though. She saw something was wrong and she saved all of her friends.
Definitely from this group,
Good on her.
right?
It was so lucky though that she even like disliked the drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She stopped.
Maybe that was
Because-
part of it. She tasted something weird.
Maybe.
I mean, look at how many, like, we're talking about kids here,
That's
right?
so scary.
But like the amount of people that get roofied,
Yeah.
and stuff, right? Like, it's a weird space for, I feel like, girls
In your
general.
lifetime, have you known anybody?
That got roofied?
Yeah.
I've heard of certain stories
Yeah.
and stuff, but like,
Kind of.
personally, I've never seen it done in front of
No.
me.
Yeah.
Well, one time I think maybe I was at a resort somewhere, and I might have seen it.
Oh, I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah, there's like some guy. He was getting this girl a drink, and he tried to like put something in the drink. Like I visibly saw him.
Yeah.
And then I was just like,
Like
hey,
behind her
like
back?
I was like, you just put something in your drink. You might not want to drink that,
Yeah.
right? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, thank you. And I was like, all right. And I was kind of like,
I've seen these
make
clips
sure that he wasn't
online
going to do it, but
just to like, I guess, spread awareness. Like
Mm.
people just go around just putting something in everyone's drink just to show you how easy it is. I've seen like clips on TikTok and stuff.
yeah.
It's pretty easy.
I mean, it's
You got to be
wild,
on your
right?
guard, especially when you're like drunk and stuff.
People are crazy.
Yeah, people would take advantage of you over,
That's what it boils down to. People are crazy.
right?
Hide your kids. Hide your wife.
I knew you were going to say that as soon as you said hide your kids. Look, these are merely our opinions based on our life experiences, knowledge, and research. Maybe you agree or disagree or simply want to be a part of the conversation. Leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. Now let's get back to the pod. But yeah, I think that's it for the stories. Let's move on to off topic.
So our first topic is the tragedy in New Orleans.
Yeah. Wow.
So on New Year's Day, this man rented a white pickup truck and he drove through Bourbon Street and killed 14 people. And then there was a shootout with police and he was killed. So the suspect was named Shamsuddin Jabbar, and he was actually a U.S. combat veteran from the military. And also during the attack, he had 2 bombs placed along Bourbon Street, but they didn't get detonated.
Yeah, I think what happened was
with that part, the 2 other.
No, the wild thing about that, like what she's talking about, this lunatic was driving down the street and he was stopped because of there was like a construction situation going on, a bump or something, and he smashed right into our construction vehicle or
I've
something.
seen it right in front of the cops.
Yeah.
Of it.
Oh, you have a video of it?
Of him driving.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Damn. Wow. The girl just got away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because you don't know. You probably freeze in that moment.
Right.
Yeah, you don't realize
What the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Then it's too late.
Yeah. And I didn't realize about it, like when we were talking about it last week, we were talking about New Year's resolutions and stuff like that, and you might get some kinder people because they want to be kind to people.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there's this influx of people who in the new year do shit like this.
Yeah. I guess,
right? Because there's been a few stories that we've heard.
Yeah.
Right. But even this guy, it's surprising that he's
Like
an army veteran.
He's part of the U.S. military. But there was a lot of experts that are saying that this is like a typical pattern of how veterans can become radicalized. Like leading up to the attack, he was going through his 3rd divorce. He lost his job. He had significant debt and a lot of mortgage payments. And apparently when he was driving to New Orleans to do the attack, he made a video that he made for his family where he expressed his support for ISIS.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's to me when it comes to, I feel like U.S. Army veterans and they do this, like when it
You
comes,
hear it a lot,
you,
right?
You hear certain situations, but it's not always like ISIS, right?
No, not always ISIS. I mean, just that they're army vets.
Being
Oh, like
seen a
this
lot.
happens.
Like,
yeah, I mean,
Remember that
PTSD.
Vegas shooting
yeah.
where it was like a festival? I think he was a sniper.
Was he an army vet?
I think he was an army vet.
I don't know. I remember the shooting exactly, but I forget the details on who or how the shooter was. But this guy, from what I've read, this guy was a real estate agent or something. I think I saw some video somewhere. He's like, no, you know, and he looked pretty normal when I saw that kind of video.
The video.
Right?
I know what you're talking
And then I'm thinking, like, what brings him from that to where he went now? And all I saw was like he had something like around $36,000 in debt. I don't know if those numbers were right or if that's just things out on the internet. And then I saw somewhere where he had to pay child support coming up or something like that, and that was weighing on him or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're talking about 30, 40 grand. I think his business was doing bad and like it wasn't as successful as he wanted it to be. So I feel like he's in this place where you can easily, when you see the situation, be like, yeah, it was because of that, or, you know, the stress of life and stuff like that. But there has to be something in you that's not right for you to take 50, 60, 70, 80. How much could he be in debt, right? Like to take that and be like, this is, you know, the
Do you know
time.
where he was stationed? Like where he was fighting?
Oh, I think it was Fort Bragg or Fort, I don't know, Bragg or something like that. I don't know how it's pronounced. I did read this, but it's probably just coincidence. But the Cybertruck explosion.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently that guy was stationed at the same place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he's also military. They were both previously stationed in Fort Bragg, but there's no record that they served together at the same time. And they're also both stationed in Afghanistan in 2009, but also no record
Imagine
that they
what
were
they
together.
dealt with there.
Okay, the weird thing is the Afghanistan part, that they both were in Afghanistan during the same year.
Yeah.
But them being at Fort Bragg, from what I know, it's like a small city. Like the amount of people that are in that division, right? So like to me, like we're not obviously have any knowledge on the army or military whatsoever, right? But like anything that I've read, it's not something where there's like 10, 20 people or even 100 people in the, it's thousands, right? So it's not something that's like, I don't know, I guess you could say it's a coincidence or not.
Yeah. But I think that the Tesla one's already been ruled a suicide, right?
They were saying,
He left a note and stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't more so talking about the ISIS part of it. I was just thinking about the PTSD.
Yeah.
PTSD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what leads them to being radicalized.
Plus dealing with all the other stresses of coming back. Like, do you get a job right away?
I'm sure after you see all that, even normal stresses of life, they probably compound.
Exactly.
They feel like a lot more.
Exactly.
Your mind's probably.
I mean,
I can only assume.
Like we were just talking about what girls deal with when it comes to like fear, right? If there's no way we can fathom what a person who is serving out there deals with, right?
What they've seen, what they've done.
I've heard all these stories on various podcasts and like read various articles of like things that have happened in Afghanistan when they've been there, and like
crazy stuff,
the evils that world has to offer, right? And what's just accepted,
right?
And like when you're out in war, what happens? It's stuff that we're not privy to, or things that we don't see, right? So it's very easy for us to think that maybe these people, you know, and have some sort of rational, logical thought in everyday life, right?
Yeah.
But maybe they don't, right? Maybe they can justify certain actions, right? Like, who knows? You can't go through somebody's mind and think of why they would do any of these things, right? But like, at the end of the day, how do you stop it? Is the question. Right? Like, how do you stop this from happening, right? Like, I saw Rogan once had a guy on and they were talking about, I don't know, trying to get psilocybin. I don't know if you saw the episode for, which is mushrooms, right? For army veterans, right? Because apparently there is some sort of correlation where it helps them through certain things. Again, it's not something I know about, but like, I feel like there's some sort of correlation, right? Or something that needs to happen, right? For these people who serve the country, right? And then they end up in this space, right? Now, I don't feel bad for this guy dying whatsoever because of what happened with him. Right? I don't think anyone feels bad for that, right? Especially an act of terrorism when he's claiming he's ISIS, right? So he's become radicalized somehow, right? But
none of it justifies what he did, but the outreach for army vets, like how good or bad is it? Do you guys know?
No.
Well, it gets talked about a lot. I know it's not great. How much support they get, or even
anything
the funding they get.
Or even trying to make an appointment with the doctor, I think is difficult.
No, it's scary stuff. It's terrifying stuff. You celebrate the new year. You're celebrating the new year. This happens. And then the next day when we woke up, we see all these things across the news about.
Again, with the crowds. Like,
that's what I said already before. That's why I don't go on crowds. Man.
We talked about the Germany guy. He did the same thing.
Right.
The weird thing about this is on the same day it happens, like 4 or 5 hours apart, 6 hours apart.
That was weird, but apparently it's coincidental.
6 hours apart, same division. And they were both in Afghanistan around the same time. It's a hell of 3 coincidences. I feel like even Elon Musk was like, these are a lot of coincidences. We need to figure this out. But I don't know.
They rented the trucks from the same company. That's a stretch.
Well,
Turo's a big company.
Yeah, Turo's like, if you guys know what it is, like Airbnb for cars. Right. But yeah, the Tesla, the Cybertruck guy, that one was a weird one because it blew upwards. I don't know if you heard about it.
Inside the Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas, Wednesday morning. Las Vegas police released this video of the blast, which killed the driver and injured several others.
Yeah, so a lot of people are giving credit to the fact that because it was a Cybertruck, it limited a lot of the damage because it was right outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, but it didn't even break the windows of the hotel.
Look how close it is.
Because like you were saying, it blew upwards. So the driver of the Tesla truck, he shot himself before the truck blew up, and he was the only death, but there were people around that got injured. There was like 7 injuries. But people are saying like it can be like a sign because it was a Elon Musk's Tesla. It was in front of the Trump Tower.
Yeah, maybe he had some.
Not to make light of the situation, but if you're gonna look at that, that does the opposite for a Cybertruck, right? That's marketing right there.
Yeah, that is so good. Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like even everything that I read, like it didn't, like you're saying, it didn't even break windows. So there's no shrapnel. There's nothing flying around, cutting people. So like the damage is going to be minimized, right? But this idea of this hatred towards, I feel like the right, like you can disagree with people and not get there, right? I feel like politics, I'm not going to just blame it all on politics, but there's such a divide where it's so easy for them to paint each other as like very, very bad people.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize when you're saying this that sometimes your actions have consequences and there's cycles out there.
Yeah.
Right? Who will act even if you don't want to.
For sure.
Right? But yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff. I think there's thankfully in that second attack, nobody else died. But yeah, you guys want to move on to the next?
Yeah. So there was a couple that climbed Mount Everest. We have a video.
The couple did something that's never been done before.
Harpreet, Navneet and I are all members of the Sikh faith, and when they texted me this photo from the Everest base camp, I knew I had to tell this story. This is the Nishan Sahib. It's the Sikh flag, which is flown at every gurdwara or place of worship. Well, for the very first time, it was placed at the summit of Mount Everest.
There's a lot that faith can do to help you climb the mountain, and we knew we were carrying it with us, and it will take us to the top and bring us safely down.
That's cool. They seem pretty old too.
They seem old, but they seem healthy.
Yeah.
If you're gonna see an old couple like that, they seem like,
they don't drink.
right? This alcohol consumption. Yeah, no,
that's cool, man.
That's a pretty cool moment. I feel like
Mount Everest.
Yeah, conquering Mount Everest isn't a small feat, right? So when you see somebody, especially from the Sikh faith, do it, which we're Sikh, right? So like when you see that, it's pretty cool to watch, right?
Yeah. It's a nice story.
Yeah, it's an inspiring story for sure.
Okay, so let's move on to, so in Texas, there was like an anesthesiologist. He was tampering with IV bags.
Oh, what the hell?
So he was mixing like a drug cocktail in it that would increase blood pressure, but really high.
What? Why?
There's a lot of reasons. They were saying that he was like in some debt. He was, he had some failing businesses. He was mad about previous times that he was reprimanded in like while he was working.
Mm-hmm.
But he was charged. This is just a video of like of how he was doing it.
Him getting caught. He's like a 60-year-old anesthesiologist in Texas, and he was just injecting the IV bags with all these other drugs that resulted. So one of his coworkers actually died because he took the IV bag home to treat
it was
dehydration.
A woman.
Oh,
so,
a woman.
Yeah, so she was just treating herself.
Oh my God.
And she ended up dying.
Oh my God.
From a cardiac arrest.
So what was this guy's end goal? Why was he doing this?
Yeah, why is he?
I think he was just
crazy.
At a bunch of things, crazy, obviously.
Did you guys see Dexter, the new one?
Yeah.
The first episode?
It kind of reminded me of that nurse.
The first episode.
Too.
Oh, the nurse in it? Yeah.
She was doing something like that. She
But
was
a lot of
slowly
if you
killing
think
people.
about IV bags, like first of all, like you're in a hospital, right? That's the last thing on your mind that you're But IV every operation they put an IV bag out there. So what was happening was numerous people were having these cardiac problems during operations, and they didn't know
That's
why.
crazy.
And it was because of that. So he got 190 years in prison.
Deserves it.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it reminds me of Dr. Death.
Yeah. It reminded me of Dr. Death too.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy was a crazy person.
Yeah.
Well, a crazy smart person also. That guy, his whole story of like how he convinced people that he wasn't actually a doctor and he's operating on people. He has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think he even left some sort of surgical instrument in a person before, stitched it up.
And he kept practicing for years.
Kept practicing from hospital to hospital.
He's not even a doctor.
Right. But like, yeah, this is a wild story, man. You see, like you guys are saying, you're in a place where you're hoping that somebody's going to come fix you. right? And you have a crazy person like this guy, and
You can't go to a hospital either, man.
There was kids that were having problems. Like I think I read like a 19-year-old, but it could have been younger. Like just think about how common an IV bag is.
Yeah.
But we can move on to the Justin Baldoni. Remember the Blake Lively stuff we were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we talked about how Blake Lively filed a sexual harassment lawsuit against Justin Baldoni. So now Justin Baldoni is suing the New York Times for $250 million. And he's accusing the newspaper of working with Blake Lively to damage his reputation by omitting information to support her version of events when they did report the claims. So like one example was in Blake's lawsuit, she accused Justin of entering her trailer unannounced on set while she was breastfeeding.
Yeah.
But
Oh my God.
in his claims now, he denied that he did that and that she actually invited him in, and he has like text messages to prove it.
I saw this like online. I guess like the tide's kind of turning in his favor because apparently he has text to prove everything that he's saying. He can back it all up. Like she said, it's okay, I'm just pumping. Just coming. She said things of that nature, and he said that he has text to prove all that.
Yeah, I saw a headline where he's like, all the truth will come out.
Yeah.
Or something along those
That's why I'm like, in cases like this, it's best to just wait it out, see
all the evidence.
see where it all
There's
lands.
a lot of like
You never know.
says, she says.
I guess it's my algorithm. It keeps pushing me that this guy's the good guy and she's the bad person.
Really, I don't get pushed anything about this story, but like just looking at it, like I feel like I feel like ever since the Me Too movement, situations like this are a little weird, right?
Yeah.
And then you
I
have
don't know who to trust,
right? And then like you don't want to not trust a victim, right? But at the same time, what we were talking about the last time we talked about this lawsuit, right? How even the movies roll out, there was some animosity between the two there.
Right.
And then this stuff comes out about, what he's doing and how he treated her during that whole lawsuit when she filed it.
Yeah.
And then he's basically suing for defamation because, they're defaming his character or whatever he's doing. It just seems like it's a little bit of a back and forth, right? At this point, like, I don't know who you really want to believe, right?
It's
like,
hard. There's like evidence on both sides, but it's all evidence. We haven't seen any of it.
yeah. And then even that, like if somebody's going to give text messages and be like, she invited me in, what if she did that once? And this guy's clever enough to have that. And then maybe she was breastfeeding a second time and that time he just walked in.
Right.
Right. Like, so like it's all stuff like that. You don't know. Right. And then like these are civil cases, right? They're just lawsuits. It's not like they're criminal.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I mean, a lot of it is just, you're just harming reputations at this point. Right. But I feel like,
Yeah, no, I was just saying, yeah, you're right. They're trying to harm each other's reputation.
Yeah.
that's all it is.
Like I read today, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds aren't even going to the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
They're making a stance on
Yeah.
Okay.
that. But he had such a big, like Deadpool was big.
Yeah. That's a big movie to
Yeah.
not go. He's probably gonna win something.
Yes, but they're not going to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's his wife.
He's
For
gonna
sure.
support her.
Right.
Yeah.
What else? If that's how she wants him to support her, I don't think he cares about a stupid trophy, right?
Yeah.
But just guessing here, I don't know the guy president.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll see how it
Yeah.
shakes out.
We got anything else?
Yeah, so there's this big Shoppers Drug Mart sting.
Oh no.
Yeah, so basically what was happening was men and women were going into Shoppers, spending between $2,000 to $5,000, but canceling the transaction, so then you get a receipt. So then when they would go through security, it would beep, and they would be like, "No, I paid," and no one was checking it.
Oh, shit.
But they did it over in a 6-month period over 1,000 times,
$5,000 each time?
$2,000 to $5,000.
How the hell do you spend $5,000 at a shop?
So they
And
were
how
buying,
big is a Shoppers when you're leaving with $2,000 worth of
but
shit?
they were buying all these like teeth whitening, electric toothbrushes, prenatal vitamins. These are all expensive, high ticket items, curling irons,
Yeah.
anything that was high ticket at a shop. But so they were also doing it at Home Depots, Best Buys. They're getting Fitbits, drills, bulbs, coffee makers, doorbells.
Damn.
Yeah.
Who-
But what was happening is that they were getting all these things. And then, so basically with security, they figured out a license plate, linked it to a house, linked it to a warehouse. Warehouse was owned by a Satnam Paul Chawla.
Oh, no.
And he, in turn, was taking all of those items and selling them on Amazon.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Hasn't this guy heard of drop shipping? Why you're stealing things and doing?
Selling
Oh
them.
my
So
god!
the estimated value of all the goods was $8 million.
Wow.
Yeah, which they're getting a little bit of it back now from because they had blocked his. So the way Amazon works, I'm sure you're aware. There's some places where you can sell things like a Fitbit as long as you have like a deal with them, right? So he was contacted by Amazon numerous times saying that you don't have deals, we're suspending.
Yeah.
But he managed to get away with a lot.
Yeah.
And he's arrested, 10 other people are arrested. So he had a whole little gang.
I mean, if he has a warehouse full of
He rented it in Brampton.
Wow. Brampton too, of all places. So this guy rents a warehouse for the scheme to go rob shoppers.
Yeah, a Canada Post truck would come to his warehouse to pick up all the items.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was.
So I was gonna make fun of this and compare it to those butter bandits that we used to see that were taking butter from like Indian grocery stores or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But this is
his company was called Buy and Sell.
Well, it's more like steal and sell.
Yeah.
But no, that's wild, man. Like renting a warehouse for all your stolen shit to sit in
to sell
and to sell.
Yeah.
And you're just we wanted to talk about Canadian crime.
Right.
This guy's like, I'm gonna steal shit, put it in a warehouse.
They should have a limit. Shoppers Drug Mart, Home Depot understand it more. You can buy like 3 things that'll cost $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're
stuff like that. Yeah.
Shoppers? Oh, the hell do you spend $5,000 at Shoppers?
$5,000, it does seem steep, right? But one of the bills was 51 something.
Even $2,000, it's hard to spend there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Home Depot, you could do that in a second.
Electric toothbrush. I don't know. Maybe
Not that
you have
much.
to buy like 10 or 20 of them.
20, 25 things.
So what, they bought them and then they just refund them?
So they would buy them, but they would, if you cancel a transaction, you still get a receipt.
Yeah.
So then when they would leave, the alarm would go off and they would wave it, and then nobody was checking.
Oh, what?
And then eventually people caught on.
Like at
Should after $8 million worth?
Always at the same kiosk, and then always with the same credit card.
So it's not even like this.
It wasn't that well thought out.
These aren't even smart
But how are
criminals.
they getting away with it?
That's what I'm saying.
This is what happens. I feel like when you have crime running, I feel like when you see a lot of crime happening on social media, you then get these people who are sitting at home who are like, I have nothing going on. Like, if nobody's going to jail, then we might as well give this a shot. And then you get this genius who wants to rent out a warehouse, put a bunch of stolen shit in there, and then sell it back to Amazon.
That's wild.
It's wild. It's crazy. That's one of the craziest things I've heard in a while.
Yeah. Okay. In other news, Derrick Rose. So he announced that he was retiring in September. Mm-hmm. And then the Chicago Bulls are now retiring his number.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I have a video of when they told him.
It's supposed to be about you, but you made it about the fans.
Yes.
Which is incredible. But I'm telling you right now, next year, when we retire your number in that Raptors, it's going to be more about you than the fans. So
that's wild.
It's so nice, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's a hooper. I even saw there was another video when he was getting cut, I think. He got emotional. And even remember his first big injury?
Yeah.
He was he's supposed to be selling his shoe, and he's just like, I just want to hoop.
Yeah, he's like, I just want to
So just background for anyone that doesn't know. So he was a number 1 overall draft pick in 2008. At 22, he became the youngest NBA MVP.
Right.
He played with the Bulls from 08 to 16, so it was a long time.
Yeah. 8 years.
Yeah. And then so what he did was kind of cool. He, for one day, did a pop-up shop in Chicago of just selling red roses.
Yeah.
So there was lineups for them.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool. It was nice, right?
No, it's good on Chicago for doing
He's also there's a documentary coming out about him called Becoming a Rose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a short film, like a love letter to Chicago, just because he's so grateful.
Yeah.
No, he's from Chicago. He got drafted to Chicago, Rookie of the Year, MVP, youngest MVP ever. You remember those battles with LeBron when it was Noah.
The way this guy was just dunking,
he was
exciting to watch, man.
He was really cool to watch, man. If it wasn't for that injury, man, like D-Rose was up there during that era of basketball.
They're saying that he's like one of the most dynamic players.
Yeah, he was really exciting to watch.
It was like him, Russell Westbrook during that time, these point guards that were like dunking and slamming and doing whatever. But D-Rose was impressive because he would make it look pretty easy and you wouldn't see that coming from him, kind of.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty nasty jumper too. He had some buzzer.
He had a good all-around game.
Yeah, he was like, and I liked him.
It really sucks when an injury derails somebody's career.
Yeah, but the time, I feel like his MVP season, I feel when any of those times you saw him go up against Bron.
Yeah.
There was, even though Bron, during that time, he was I feel like the better player, better team, and he was favored in most of those series. I think Chicago even took game 1 in a couple of those playoff series, but it was a battle.
Yeah.
And even the hatred was real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you had, I feel like Joakim Noah.
Yeah, who the hell goes to Cleveland anyway?
Yeah, right. I mean, it was cool for basketball. Derrick Rose is definitely a staple, and if they're retiring his jersey, good on them. But I feel like this guy's one of those statue kind of players, right?
So he mentioned that he's like, I just don't like how they're making the statue, so I wouldn't want one.
Okay.
But he's only one of 5 jerseys that the Bulls have retired.
Yeah.
So it's
One thing.
Them's a pretty big name.
well, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Jerry Sloan, Bob Love, and he's the 5th.
Yeah, no, he definitely deserved it. Well deserved. He's a high character dude.
Good for
It
the
seems
Bulls.
like he tries to do everything.
It's so
the right
nice
way.
seeing that. Like he was like so like moved by it.
Yeah.
That's just, he's a hooper, man, through and through.
Yeah.
This guy's,
that's
he never liked the branding aspect of like whole
Well, he branded
marketing.
Rose.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you have to
Yeah.
eventually,
Yeah.
but it didn't seem like it's something he's like lived.
Yeah,
for. He
watching
just wanted
him-
to hoop.
Yeah.
As a fan, watching him during that era playing ball, he seemed like the kind of guy who was just
He'll meet you on a ball court outside and it was just hoop. Like he
Yeah,
just
he-
loves hooping.
Yeah, that's all it was. It was
Seems
about
loyal
basketball.
to-
For him.
Loyal to Chicago.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Next we have Drake released a new song.
Yeah, so there was like this song going around online that Drake released, but he didn't put it on any streaming platforms. So it's on like YouTube or Twitter and stuff. It's called Fighting Irish Freestyle.
Yeah.
And it kind of talks about how Drake is like upset about people supporting Kendrick Lamar during their feud, especially like celebrities. There's allegedly a particular reference to LeBron James.
Yeah.
Maybe the title of the song has something to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Like there was a line in the song about the watches. So, because he talks about when they like traded watches and he gave LeBron a watch in the past. There's another line in the song where he goes, "The world fell in love with the gimmicks. Even my brothers got tickets," which could be perceived as being about like showing up to the Kendrick pop-up concert and like showing support to Kendrick.
Yeah.
Even though they've had a long relationship with Drake in the past. And
Look at that line about the watches. And remember, we traded watches. I gave you the Arabic dial, and you gave me the numbered edition. Looks like Drake had some words.
And in that picture, you can see he's wearing the Arabic dial.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
and it's
like,
called Fighting Irish. So
yeah, I feel like a large portion of that whole track, he took it down too afterwards, right?
it was never released.
Yeah,
It was
it's
just
not
online, but
streaming platforms.
this guy knows what he's doing. He put something online.
then
It's
he
not
knows,
going anywhere. It's going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Fighting Irish. Irish was the name of LeBron's high school
team. Yeah.
You know what's so funny? Like Drake has this tattoo on his sleeve of LeBron James in his Irish jersey.
Wow.
And that's a tattoo.
I get it, man.
So whack for putting tattoos.
He has a lot of tattoos.
Yeah, I know he has an Aaliyah one too.
Yeah,
He has Steph and KD.
But that being said, the rap was really good.
Yeah.
I felt like he
I listened to the track. I felt like it was a pretty decent track. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like before this whole Kendrick beef, the way that Drake would take these little disses was usually in this manner, right? Like, you can call it sneak dissing or whatever, but he's pretty good with dropping these little lines here and there and like letting the audience figure it out or whatever.
Like, look, people are talking about it. It's trending.
Definitely. And I think it's like when you see LeBron, right? Like him and LeBron seem like, from whatever I know, they were pretty tight.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden LeBron goes to the Lakers and now he's in the West Coast. So he's kind of adopted the West Coast, I guess. And he's out here at Kendrick's concerts. And then it's not like he was on stage. Right. So, but like you see him, I think I recently saw him rapping at a New Year's party, which is kind of cringe because
I saw that video.
Saw the angle of it where he's just like, I don't know.
He's singing a Kendrick song too.
Yeah, he's singing a Kendrick song.
I'd be interested to know if there was some specific falling out, something that happened with these guys. Because, I don't know, the way that this guy did Drake, you did him pretty dirty, man. You just leave him high and dry.
Want to see it?
Yeah, play it.
Video?
Yeah. I mean, look at this.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I saw this. It looked like such a cringy video. I think somebody's filming him.
Why is there nobody at his party?
I'm sure there's people there.
He's just performing?
It's just the fact that it's a Kendrick song.
There's one person.
That lady's very passionate.
No, I mean...
And he picks the song on purpose. You're putting this out online. It's just like you keep rubbing it in this guy's face. It's like, even that before, remember, you were telling me when Steph and them have the Olympic team.
US,
he's like, turn this shit off, and he's like, I love this song.
Yeah, during the Olympics, he kept playing Not Like Us.
Yeah.
And then like...
What couples they used to be. Look at these. Way back, play it back.
He did his show. This guy doesn't do interviews.
Yeah, the one thing I wouldn't respect there, despite what side you want to be on or whatever, if you're loyal to a friend and that stuff happens, or there's like a rap beef going on or whatever, just stay out of it.
Yeah, if you just be impartial.
Right, that doesn't mean you have to hate Kendrick or whatever, just stay out of it, right? It's not like you, like with DeMar, from what I know, he grew up in Compton, and then he says that he's known Kendrick from way back in the day. Westbrook, so that's not... LeBron grew up in Cleveland. He's known Drake for like 10, 15 years, and it seems like they've been pretty cool, and then all of a sudden, Drake gets in a rap beef with somebody from LA, and just because you play for the Lakers, you think this is where you insert yourself, right? And then now, it's not like LeBron has... I don't know. At this point, like, it's... to me, I look at it as like a... He doesn't have to be loyal to Drake.
Yeah.
Right, but like, what are you doing, bro? Like,
that's how I would have handled it. Just stay on the sideline. You don't have to chime in on everything. Yeah. It's not always a branding deal. Yeah. Like you, just because you play for the Lakers, you got to ride with Kendrick. You didn't have to.
No.
And
even if you prefer his music, right? Like, you know what kind of how that image looks.
He made the song for his documentary Forever.
Oh, Forever, yeah.
He went on his show, The Shop. Drake doesn't do long form interviews like that.
Drake got a tattoo of LeBron.
He got it tatted on his body.
Yeah.
They were obviously very close, and Drake took this very personally. That
I don't blame him, is what I'm saying. Like, I get
I don't blame
him.
If that happened to me, I'd be feeling the same way. I'd be fighting the Irish too.
Unless something actually happened between them two, and LeBron has a reason for what he's doing.
That's what we don't know.
Well, he's not talking about that.
Yeah, but if nothing happened and he's just doing this shit because he's trying to get on a wave, because that's popular right now, then what?
Then I get it. I'd be pissed off.
100%. Like, what is
what
that?
The hell? You're just writing what people are liking the song, so you're off.
Maybe
the side.
he just likes the music.
No,
that's okay to even like the music. This guy's going out. I deserve it all, and then he's like,
not only that, doesn't it come off as like thirsty a little bit? That's what it looks like to me, right? Like, you're being a little too thirsty, trying to be like, LA, please accept me, right? Like, that's what it comes off as.
Yeah,
right. Like,
maybe so that particular video was his birthday. Maybe he was having a little bit of fun. So I don't want to hold that against him.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, I don't want to sound like a complete LeBron hater. Any of my friends, they know while LeBron was playing before his LA.
Yeah, you're the biggest LeBron.
Yeah, I watched every single LeBron game. Right?
Yeah.
Been the biggest fan. Lately, he's just been doing some really cringy shit.
Yeah.
Right. And then like with me, like if I was in that scenario, even if I didn't like Drake at that time, as a man, I'm just like, bro, that used to be my guy.
Yeah. I'm out of it.
Weird. Like I'm out of this. Right.
Yeah.
Like you guys go at each other, whatever, cool. Right. But like to insert yourself into something.
Also at his age, right? Like
you're 40. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
You have
And it's a
grown
rap beef.
children.
And the thing about rap beefs and stuff, like I'm not saying Drake and Kendrick are gonna get over all of this.
Yeah.
But they go away. You see all these rappers that we watch growing up, when they get old, they're like, yeah, that was stupid. And some of them will jump on a track. All of them. It's just like, it's not that it's
something that happened.
Yeah, it's not completely squashed, but a lot of it goes away.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna now
destroy friendships,
right?
relationships.
I could respect somebody that whoever, if they're loyal and that, those kind of values, morals, principles mean something to them,
Yeah.
you don't just walk away from it, right?
Yeah.
For what? So you can stand in front of a camera, have your promo person record a video of you doing this stupid shit? Like,
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah. That's all we have for off topic, so we can move on to questions.
Okay.
Okay. We'll do 2 questions today. So we'll start with, would you rather be able to talk to animals or speak every single language?
Speak every single language.
No, that's kind of a little tough just for the reason. Like when I had my dog, I really wanted, that would have been so cool.
Yeah, I feel like people with pets,
You're not a dog
definitely rather be able to talk.
Animal.
That's the only thing. Other than that, knowing every language is so cool.
That'd be so cool.
Right away, my mind.
Dr. Doolittle?
No.
I thought about that.
That's what I was thinking.
Like, there's like a wolf, and you're like, "Don't hurt me,"
Right?
But what if he's like, I'm going to eat you anyways?
and I could talk to him like, "I'll give you something better."
And he's like, no, you're the best.
I'll give you a whole cow.
But yeah, I just went to like, what can you monetize more?
Oh wow.
Languages. Yeah.
Languages, right?
Actually,
I don't know.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was
Going
thinking.
on vacation and being able to order.
Yeah, you're being innocent like how you should. I'm just like, where can I make,
Where do
more,
I make more money?
Right? Like, I don't know.
Both of them, maybe.
They can if you.
How?
If you were some guy who could communicate with
Dr. Doolittle.
with animals, I think that would
lot.
make more money.
You'd still have to go to veterinary school.
No, you wouldn't.
What would you do?
You don't
Just
gotta do
train?
anything.
Social media, be like, hey, watch this line. Hey,
Yeah.
what's up, buddy?
Tell the line to spin in circles.
And you're like, hold on, that's not it. Here's an ostrich. Like, you can just do whatever. That's just like one way of doing
You
it.
talk to them, they won't listen.
You can televise it, yeah. But I mean,
No,
It'd
but
be
I get
nice
what you're
if,
saying. I get what you're
if
saying.
that was part of the power, they listen to you.
but speaking every language is pretty cool too.
That's so cool.
So
Any
cool.
language?
Yeah. Because haven't you ever been a foreigner in a country when you're on vacation and stuff, and like you'll just see like the staff members or whoever.
Oh, you know they're talking
just
shit
laugh
about
and just be like, eh.
Or even like wow, when we went to Dominican, there was a girl in front of me that spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
She was from Canada too, but she could just like order what she wanted so easily.
It's cool, right?
Yeah.
They learn Spanish in
I remember even when we were in Italy one time, like while you're just in that culture, you're just like, I wish I knew a little bit of Italian, right?
Yeah.
It just sounds cool.
Italian felt a little bit better because their words are so similar to English. They just have like an O at the end.
Yeah.
But Spanish is cool. I wish I knew Spanish.
Spanish, Italian, even French,
French is cool too.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's cool knowing a lot of language and stuff too. But I think talking to animals is
Is the winner?
you know why? You know why?
So many times I thought of like, what the hell's going through my dog's mind?
Oh.
He's just doing something.
Think of this. People can learn every language. Like it's next to impossible, but you can learn languages, right? You can figure it out, right?
Yeah.
You can't learn how. You can't talk to animals.
Yeah, you can't learn that. That's
can't
just
learn
a
that.
skill you have or not.
I mean, you're not going to learn every language.
No, I'm not
So
going
you're
to.
not going to do that.
But you can.
It's possibilities there,
I don't know.
I'm talking to animals.
right? We're gonna take the animals.
Okay. Last
take the
question. If you could trade places with someone for a day, who would you choose?
Brown name?
Oh no. That's a
They'll pick Taylor Swift.
yeah, right. This little Swifty.
Who, me or Andy?
Maybe both.
I mean, I don't think I would do it from that one. I wouldn't answer that from a monetizing or money perspective.
Yeah.
That
It would
question
be fun, right?
No. The
what I was
fun. Yeah, do the fun one. To me, it would be if there's somebody in my life who I really want to understand their perspective or how they think all the time, because it would mean a lot to me, I think then this is a boring one, but like I would want to know how this person feels throughout a day, right?
Wow,
so like
that's so deep.
it could be something.
That's such a waste.
It is a waste, but like
Deep. I was like, I would be like Ariana Grande.
Yeah, like not Taylor Swift, but Ariana Grande.
Donald Trump. Like,
I was just trying to think a little bit outside the box than just being like, you know,
no,
celebrities.
you wouldn't do that.
I liked it. You think you know me? No. Yeah, maybe. I mean, but it would be also cool to be in
Maybe
Elon
be
Musk.
like our daughter.
Well, we don't know what she thinks, so she would be like toys, right?
That must be so nice to be that young again.
Yeah.
And everything just be fun.
Yeah, she thinks her parents solve everything and know everything, right? She's like,
We're running around our like living room is fun to her.
Yeah.
I want to feel that fun.
yeah. No.
Do we gotta pick somebody?
Yeah, who would you pick?
I don't know. I was
Who
thinking,
did you say? LeBron? Is that what you said?
I just said that. But that could be one.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to be able to switch with someone that has such great talent in their field. That's why I would choose Ariana Grande.
Maybe Steph, yo. If I could just shoot like that,
that would be fire.
Imagine that feeling.
If you could pick
anyone
an
you see,
athlete.
like, I'm scoring.
Not anyone you see, you just pick. It's the finals.
Yeah.
Right, Game 7.
In your driveway.
Well,
5.
Steph hasn't done historically too well in Game 7. But like, if it's a
probably something like that, man.
Yeah, something an athlete, or even like you said, an Elon Musk,
That'd be cool.
SpaceX, Tesla, so many things going on, right? Or even a
Is
president,
that where you were leaning?
Like how his mind must work.
or even screw all of that. Any president ever to know about
Just what
Area
happened?
51.
A U.S. president.
Oh, just to know if aliens
Things
are
like
real.
that with all this drone talk.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that little the video of the two dots in the sky, where one kind of
I've seen lots of videos like that.
recently it surfaced. There was like these two.
New Jersey.
No, it's not New Jersey. There's these two dots in the sky, and like one of them just like shoots off into the sky in like this crazy speed that it's impossible to think that like anything man-made would be able to fly that fast.
Bet you the president knows what it is.
That's
Well, not this
hey.
one. Joe
Well,
doesn't know where the hell he is.
This one's. But any other.
But then how could it be recorded?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Oh, if it was so fast?
I don't believe it. I think it's fake.
Because of how far it was, right? And how, I mean, I don't know if all of this stuff is fake, right? Because all this stuff coming out about the New Jersey drones and stuff, how they keep saying that they don't know what it
that
is.
could be a good question. Like,
Because you know what I heard about it
aliens?
that we didn't talk about the drones. There was apparently they can fly for 5 hours before recharging or something, and they're coming
or those
specific ones, right? And they're coming off land. And I'm not no drone expert, but from what I know or read or watched, they don't really have drones like that. Can fly out that long.
Yeah.
Right. So now there's this theory where they were launching up their own drones in there to confuse people to be like, we also have our own ones, but there is this theory where these people are talking about it. So these are my algorithms, right? Like, yours is Blake Lively.
Justin Baldwin.
It's like the government.
Yeah.
It's not on like what it is. Everyone's like, there's drones in New Jersey.
People will never tell you what anything is. It just happens. And then you're like, oh, that's what that was?
Being the U.S. president specifically.
Yeah.
Area
Which
51.
one?
There's a lot. Anyone. Because if you're any U.S. president, you get to look into those secrets, or hopefully. It would suck if you're like, and then you get there and they're like, sit there. You
don't really do anything.
right? But talk. That's it. Remember, we're not experts at anything, but we research everything, and we encourage you guys to do the same. We'll see you guys next week.
Take care, everybody.